Hello, fellow accounting ethics students and Professor Christensen. This is JT Tonge once again for presentation 3. I to jump into the presentation, I decided to choose the article on Harry Markopolos. I think that's how it's pronounced from the videos I've seen, but I don't know about you guys, but I kept reading it as Marco Polos. But I know that it's important to pronounce the name correctly, so I'm trying to say Markopolos. The first slide I have here is the YouTube link, which you're already watching the video, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this slide. Then I have the summary of the article. This first picture that you see is a gentleman with a smug grin, who is known as Bernie Madoff, who conducted one of the world's largest Ponzi schemes in history. And because he was uncovered, he faced criminal charges, federal charges, etc., to the point of being incarcerated, as seen in the second picture. In the third picture, however, we see Harry, who took 10 years just to make sure that the scheme was uncovered. And once it was uncovered, he was seen as a hero. Media put him on a pedestal, so did the public. But Harry didn't want that. He actually wanted to be what's known as a quiet hero from Badaracho. However, on the assignment, we have to go through how the article relates to the IMA ethical professional practice as found in the textbook, and the article of We Don't Need Another Hero from Badaracho. The first point that the IMA ethical professional practice states would be principles, which, as the textbook states, are principles of honesty, fairness, objectivity, and responsibility. Harry portrayed all of those through fairness of trying to make sure he analyzes the situation on an equal basis, so that way everybody can replicate what Bernie was doing, but he couldn't find that. There's objectivity on trying to conduct the same issue of trying to get that same results as Bernie had, but wasn't, and he was open to many suggestions. And responsibility of just once he found out the scheme, he felt responsible for making sure that it is known. There are principles of honesty as well, but I think that's kind of a given, seeing as how this is in this situation of uncovering a Ponzi scheme. He portrayed traits of competence through being the office's math whiz and was able to uncover the issue. And he also was able, through his work experience, education, and just other situations, to know how to compare gains and losses through the markets to try and match what Bernie had done, but it wasn't, and it was a red flag, along with a few other red flags that made Harry question if what Madoff was doing was a scheme. He also had confidentialities, or showed traits of confidentiality. This took 10 years. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like most people struggle with keeping ethical issues like this quiet for 6 months to a year. This took 10 years, to the point of almost giving up, as stated in the article. Then at first there was a personal gain from fraud, from the SEC, but when Harry realized that he wasn't going to get a payout due to the Ponzi scheme, he wasn't going to do it, but through some analyzation and a push from a friend from the SEC, Harry decided to still go through with the issue to make sure that the Ponzi scheme was known to the SEC. Harry also showed signs of integrity from being able to confide with a friend in the SEC and making sure that the SEC does know and can look into the issue with Madoff. There's credibility to the point of making sure that the SEC does know that about Madoff and looks into the issue. There's also work experience and whatnot that he's had from being able to an analyzation of the Ponzi scheme to make sure that the situation is known and accurate. And then the final situation would be a resolution of ethical conduct, which is, I would say, just continual contact to the SEC from Harry, because 10 years of letters I would say, are quite a lot. And then there's also the push from the SEC friend Manion. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, and with those two, I'm assuming Harry's wife. All right, so those three people would be able to push Harry enough. Excuse me, not three people. With those two people and Harry himself, were able to push Harry to the point of making sure that what is known to the world. As for the article from Badaracho, for We Don't Need Another Hero, Harry decided to choose his fight by being resilient with the solving pattern and through the SEC contact that he has. He could have given up on the fight. He decided to try and replicate what Madoff was doing, but thought it was important to make sure it was known, and was just had the drive to keep going. He was a quiet hero to avoid media. He didn't want to deal with book deals or movie deals, and he even had a family relative shoo the paparazzi away, or at least people doing interviews. And he had a drive to learn about the issue, and it just because he wanted to, from what I understand from the article, because he wanted to see how Madoff was working. Then the third issue, I would say, is he put it off or caused a delay to make sure that he analyzed the situation, discussed the situation, even contemplated it, to make sure that what he was doing was right, it was accurate, making sure that the proper authorities were contacted, and even discussed with the friend to make sure that what he was doing was okay. And then he found a compromise. Since it took 10 years, I think he found a personal compromise of writing the SEC one final letter, potentially. In the end, it was a final letter, of titling it "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." But it caught the SEC's attention enough to be a last straw and grab the attention of the SEC to look into Madoff. So there is my assignment for correlating the article of Harry to the textbook and the article from Badaracho. And here are my sources. Please let me know if you have any further questions. Thank you.